So my name is Elena, and I am a somatic emotional wealth coach for women over 40. So I support women to unlock that energetic potential that's hidden within our emotions. So then we can start to use that energy towards creating a life on our terms. And what I mean by that is that quite often we feel exhausted. We feel the lack of energy due to a lot of internal friction, internal conflict, as well as energy frozen in time due to maybe traumatic events and something that we are not yet quite able to move past. And I look at it in quite practical terms. So quite often women that come towards me for work and support are women who are saying that they do not have enough energy to do things in life that they would like to do. They quite often maybe are lacking a bit of self-confidence, and that results in lack of motivation and lack of action. So today I wanted to share something with you that I have come up with, and I think that would be valuable, whether it is in your personal life, as a businesswoman, whether it's in building your business or building your relationships. Because one of the things that I love to work with, and I always encourage my clients to bring forward, is our internal narrative and what we say to ourselves. And something that is very common whenever we are maybe not quite confident in our actions, or the motivation is not quite there and the action is not happening. So something that we quite often say is, I can't. I just can't do something, or I can't figure it out. I can't make myself. So that really made me to zoom in on the word can, to have a look in what is the potential behind it. Because once we start to understand what we are saying to ourselves and unravel it a little bit, we get a much broader aspect to work with. So one of my instruments that I love to work with is reframing. And I like to look at reframing as not just flipping positive, but rather reframing as in making that bigger frame so we can see what is behind what we are saying and what we're actually telling to ourselves and towards other people. And this is something that I wanted to share with you today, which is power of can. So with the power of can, I look at it as multidimensional, or some, let's say, 3 layers of our can within us. And I did make an anagram out of it. Because quite often when we start talking about our own capacity, I can't do something, the first thing that comes to mind is the capacity. Do I have abilities? Do I have enough time? Do I have enough resources? But what about some of the other layers within that? Because in order for us to do something, in order for something to transfer from I have to do something into something that we are willingly committing to, and especially if it's a new habit, especially if it's something that we are just starting out, it's important for us to have an agreement within us, or I call it an inner yes. It's important to have an inner why, because we want to have the reason why we're doing something. But if we do not have that inner yes, if we do not have an agreement within us, it's going to be very hard to keep going, especially sustainably, to keep continuing. For me, that becomes that very important second layer. Do I have enough capacity? And am I in agreement with myself? Which could be, do I give myself permission? Did I actually agree with that? If it's in regards to doing it with another person, am I willing? And then from here, at the end for me becomes that nurturing bit. What can I do in order to create more agreement and more capacity? And by nurture, I mean things like maybe it's something to boost my energy, because capacity and agreement will both be dependent on how much energy I have. Maybe it is asking for help. Maybe it's some extra learning resources. Maybe it's clarifying, talking to another person, so similar to help, but in a more of a collaboration way. So if we start looking at our I can or I can't from that wider prism, I believe that gives us a bit more meaning and understanding, because quite often I can't also could be the sign of overwhelm, and exhausted women are often overwhelmed, or if we're trying to juggle too much, it is overwhelming. If you're building your own business, it can become overwhelming. So in order to remove overwhelm, we can widen that. Why can't I? And start to looking at it from these three categories. So can for capacity, agreement, nurture. And from that perspective, I also want to put it into the prism of working with other people. And this is also why having our own capacity is so important. Because whenever we are dealing with another person, whether it's your employees, whether it's your clients, whether it's your family members, I invite you to think about it is that you have your inner can with your capacity, agreement, and potential nurture. And then you are dealing with another person who have their own can in mind. And something that I have also realized working with people and in my own personal relationships, and I wonder if that resonates with you, that quite often if somebody doesn't do something, we often start to think that they do not want to. I don't know, maybe just me. I really love the expression, if people could, they would. And in that, the can perspective, it's really highlighted for me, because if people could, they would means that if people can, that means are they capable? Do they have those resources? So this is something that also could be helpful sometimes, because if we are jumping to the conclusion that somebody doesn't do something because they do not want to, we are straight away going into their inner agreement, but we don't know that. Before it comes to the agreement, the capacity comes first, because somebody can be in agreement and super willing, but if they do not have the capacity to do that, it doesn't really matter. So this is something that I believe is also quite helpful, because if we start to look at another person's can from the position, do they have capacity first, rather than they are not willing, I wonder if you can see how that might also reduce some of the friction and some of the disagreements and some of the sour feelings. Because even if we look at, say you're managing employees, and if your employee is not performing, or somebody could be an employee, could be a person within your family, rather than going into conclusion, well, are they capable? Do they need a bit of a more nurture? Maybe it's some more training. Maybe they need to be offered help. And for me, can is not creating excuses, but it rather offering us more layers to look into this, and most importantly, into our own. Because of course, we cannot really offer anything authentically to somebody else without practicing ourselves. And that had been a really big changeover, even for myself personally, to recognize first, do I have capacity? Because if the answer is no, my inner yes might be wobbly. And one more important thing, I treat the nurture bit is something that we are maintaining on a day-to-day basis. It's like a power bank. So in terms of what do I need to do, or what can I do on a day-to-day basis to build that energy bank, that it's there available for me. So then when the time is asking me for some higher capacity, I can dig into it. If there are times when I really need to tweak my inner yes, because maybe sometimes we have to do things that we are not necessarily 100% going with, but it's needed. And again, that nurture part, knowing that we are supporting ourselves, is quite helpful to tweak that inner yes, that compromise. So I hope you have found that helpful to see how we have different layers in our can or can't. And maybe next time when you hear somebody say, I can't, or even you feel it within yourself, maybe you can look at it from that power of can perspective. Let me know what you think. and what has resonated with you. And I look forward to connecting with you later this afternoon.